You might not believe it, but most couples also struggle to find happiness later on in their marriage. The excitement that's present at the start of a relationship tends to dwindle over time, and then we all have to figure out how best to deal with that. Luckily, these are some effective ways you can tackle this problem. 1. True happiness is a mental state. It relies on the kinds of subconscious habits and pathways you've established. This is the outcome of how we understand the events in our daily lives and the cognitive self-statements that are strengthened when we linger on them. It is a little more difficult than it seems because if we try to feed in information that conflicts with our ingrained behaviors, it will simply skim the surface and not sink in. Like though a flat stone, we're skipping across a lake's calm surface. In addition, it requires months or even years of persistent self-awareness and reshaping our responses in order to begin changing our inner patterns. 2. I can't tell you which strategy is best for you. It's up to you to figure that out for yourself. Some people find inner wholeness by looking inward, while others find it by engaging inspirations from the outside world. And in order to get it, some degree of self-awareness is essential. It can be achieved through many ways, but all of them involve some focus on yourself and how you interact with thee. This is why research finds that seniors are some of the happiest people. For an increasing number of people, their outlook on life gets more positive as they age, and this impacts their emotional well-being and happiness levels. 3. Sharing and caring. One of the definitive findings in psychology is that focusing too much on ourselves can lead to dissatisfaction and unhappiness. But people who are happiest report a lot of sharing and caring for others. So if you're single, you might want to volunteer a bit more so that you can make the most of those opportunities to care for people. It doesn't need to be someone you know well, and it could actually be seen as bad if you are too personally involved. Paying attention to what they get out of the relationship is more important. 4. Get immersed in your craft. If you find that you study your favorite subject more intently and form a connection with the subject by trying to understand it in depth, then you might not even know how much time has passed. You should really study as much as possible, and also make a point to become involved in research or work that has something to do with your interests. If you're not satisfied with something in your life, don't just think that success will come automatically. Study hard and achieve a broader range of knowledge. There's a lot more than what you might know. 5. Avoid watching romantic movies. I know that thinking about relationships, true love, or romance is really tempting, but it will only distract you. Avoid thinking about those things, and it should help. Think of it like giving yourself an oath. If you can't stop thinking about romance, then that means you're a pathetic loser who can't control themselves. 6. Travel and have more fun. Spend more time with people who matter to you in this instance, like your friends and family. Here's a quick narrative. A young guy was discovered by a king to be constantly seated peacefully beneath a tree. He was discovered sitting quietly. The curious king approached him and extended an invitation to visit his palace. The young man surprised king by standing up and declaring, "Yes, I am coming," when he had expected him to hesitate. King began to question his integrity in light of that. He was given a lovely king-sized bed, servants in the best area of the palace, and young girls to take care of him. He accepted all of the palace's delicacies. The monarch believed the man had tricked him. As he was passing by, he thought of the young man who was portraying himself as a saint. King's belief in his honesty began to waver. After 6 months, one morning when they were walking together in the early hours of the day, the king addressed him in the gardens and said, "One question has been bugging me non-stop, and I want to eliminate it. I haven't slept well for the past 6 months as a result." The young man responded, "You can ask any question." King inquired, "I want to know what separates me from you. You reside in the palace and have access to all the comforts. What sets you and I apart from one another?" The young man insisted on leaving the kingdom's borders. Both crossed the river. The young man replied, "My response is that I'm moving forward," as he stood on the opposite bank. "Are you accompanying me?" "I have to look after a kingdom, my wife, and my kids," he remarked. "I need to find solutions to my difficulties and issues. How do I accompany you?" "Do you notice the difference?" the young man asked. "I was just as happy under my tree as I have been in your palace, not a bit more or less. I don't need much, just a tree to sit underneath. My consciousness is the same whether I'm in a castle or a jungle. I could care less about it at all. You naturally possess the ability to be happy. It was a part of you from the moment you were born. You can observe a child smile. Naturally, it happens. There is no effort needed. The obstruction in front of you needs to be taken down. They are long accumulated ambition, fear, anxiety, rage, etc. In order to return to the natural state, this cover must be taken off. To achieve that state, regular meditation practice is required. Your objective is to just look for and identify the barriers surrounding yourself rather than to look for love, against which you have constructed.